Hi everyone, I'm just going to make it a very short one today, very unstructured. So I won't be going to London on Sunday, but I know a lot of you on Saturday. So hope it doesn't spill over onto Sunday. We don't really know what will happen these days, do we? If the police or the army will be in force, showing their teeth as the police state that we can see unfolding. I think that's what we need to see in a way to wake ourselves up. Do nothing to provoke them, because that will give them an excuse to, further the propaganda on the BBC. But just, film everything you can if it's abusive, because the things I've seen have been horrific. The New World Order is using a very communist, cultural Marxist blueprint of, ideology. So it puts a lot of us who are just standing up for standard rights, basic, normal human rights, at the bottom of the queue, as we can see on their rainbow train. A colourful, garish, amazing thing, which is the site of Babylon. It's sort of intoxicating, stunning, glamorous, drunken, mad, debauched, making all take part in a sort of a frenzy that must be controlled. Because after all, we're really only being given artificial rights in this sort of parade and this, this sort of charade, this kind of masked ball for their entertainment. And do we go along with that charade, or do we gather ourselves up and recognize what it really is? Some people can't take that step yet. Fair play to them. They will see, and we'll have to do the work for them until then. This love is love thing is a much stronger dynamic to be up against than, that prevents anyone saying, this, who is like it, who can fight against it, sort of thing. So this is the root of their desire. This is the root of someone's desire. You can't beat it. And by joining paedophilia in with that alternative love is love fiasco carnival, you make it something that is also, you're attacking the very crux of someone's desire, the blueprint of who they really are. So, you have no credence to do that, and they have been given the gold card. This is going to play out in extraordinary ways, as you would expect in an end time scenario, if you were of the persuasion of discovering the truth. Because the perversity that comes up is going to lead you in that direction eventually. It did me very early on when I saw, the people who were controlling me lying, and even took my rights away horrifically. When I was 16, I was bundled into a car and taken to a top private hospital, the same chain that George Smith was taken to when Charles paid for his detention after seeing him in bed with a servant who had been accused of rape. Diana went in with the tape recorder. And very much like me, I've got recordings of abuse, of my abuser talking about this hospital and other things. My tape recorder came back from the police station broken. Luckily, the tape was intact. I've had it transcribed and everything, but it's not good enough evidence. He talks about my friend and me by the river when we were underage, the horses, the riding, the stables. He talks about the hospital, how much was paid, etc. And the fact that I'd not had proper recall on it because of post-traumatic stress for a long time, which was taken advantage of. And all my stress and PTS was diagnosable, and useful to the abuser and family who wanted everything kept quiet. So I do know about scandals that put me on the path to knowledge. This particular hospital chain acted in a way that was similar to what we're seeing Gates doing. And it's sort of an experimental thing that I still have evidence of, X-ray evidence. And as you can see, it's actually disturbing for me to talk about it, so I won't. I generally don't. As it was so long ago, and there was like an explosion around the trauma. When I finally rebuilt my life, struggled, in a foreign country in Denmark for a while, struggled to find myself somewhere to live when I came back, a collusion with family and the authorities to silence me. My family are Freemasons. My granddad was a Freemason. We used to sit opposite head of police at a place called Ashwell House. Is one of the places they used to have their Christmas dinners. A lovely sort of name. You're named sort of like put in front of your dinner, and little chocolates beside it. It was really kind of interesting, but the people there were all top police, and can't help but wonder if that's why they didn't want to investigate on so many occasions, despite the overwhelming evidence that I've just, explained to you. My medical notes from this hospital went up in a fire, but that's very common. John Wedger has been with me to see the graffiti behind the house, which still remains since when I was a child. We used to say we'd put one in Tipp-Ex of our own. This was in white on a corrugated fence where I used to run my stick along, walking along with the abuser sometimes. I used to say, be quiet, didn't want to draw attention to ourselves. And I was told that if people saw us together, they were to think we were father and child. So yeah, I'd had kind of a life where a lot of this explosion around the trauma had caused a numbing effect, if you like, because I hadn't had to live with it day after day afterwards. And what they'd done to me in the Gates manner, let's say, of experimentation in this hospital had caused me to not be able to concentrate, basically switched me off. I was like living in a bit of a cloud, a bit like Alice in Wonderland, protected from a lot of the sharp edges of life. So when I began to get flashbacks, horrific as they were, because I'd actually had to fear for my life at the point of being taken into the car, I was diagnosable, and I turned to, seeking out truth in a big way. And I have done low-key ever since, in a way that I appreciate being grounded. I appreciate having a support network of friends and my son's dad and a stable family. So I didn't want to rock the boat and come out with my belief systems really strongly until last year or so, really. I've been making videos on YouTube that you can see going back 10 years. But I'd been keeping my head down because I'd known all too well what could happen to me if I didn't, that I would be discredited. I don't think I have much chance of any recourse to legal help in this country, but I think I'm sadly very, very much not alone. I haven't done for a long time. I could put some of my evidence back online for you to see, so that some of you know what the police cover up and how they cover up. I mean, John is talking about this all the time, John Wedger. As I said, he came back to the village and saw the graffiti sign behind the house, which talks about satanic work, satanic ritual abuse sort of thing. And I saw the peripherals of it, thankfully only that. There was a party that they wanted to take us to from my friend, a Jewish girl's family, and they were going to, her father worked with my abuser in the city, and Etonians, doctors, friends. The two kids came down, only in pants, a year or so younger than us, two girls, blonde hair, crawling on the floor, not talking. And I was obviously concerned. I've done this in interviews many times. And they were told to stare into mirrors in a dark room, and that we would be taken to another party. But thankfully, I wasn't. The main abuser's brother, who we used to call Superman because he looked like Superman, and we used to have cigarettes with him. And in those days, in the 80s, it was grow up fast, nicotine, grow up fast. And Superman came in and said, on the posters, to try and get people not to smoke. So we called him Superman, partly because he looked a bit like Clark Kent, and partly because of the cigarette advert, Superman advert. He took me and a friend, and it was quite cold outside, out, so that we couldn't be taken to this party where I was told we'd meet important people. So I am fully aware of the organised abuse amongst elites. A top politician was the only important person I knew in my village, who, when he dies, I will be able to name. I've come across somebody in the working environment to do with child sexual abuse when I worked at the People's Tribunal, UK CSAPT, which was headed by Michael Mansfield. But one of the people I worked with had info on this politician, top guy as well. Witness, although she was reluctant to come forward. He had a lot of info on him. So one day we'll be able to speak. It's a little dangerous for us all, really, still, especially as you can see how corrupt this police system that we've been living under is, because it's generating now to a position where it affects a lot more people. You can see the way it mistreats protesters and, generally heavy-handed common purpose tactics that, are becoming more and more apparent to many people. They really act as like social workers. They really act like, social engineering kind of trained people who are just like social workers, crowd control, and quite militant and vicious, and unthinking in their, programming. So you won't get a lot of justice from the police often if you have a complex story that's not going to be easy for them. The workload, they won't, and especially in my case, if there are important people involved, and Masons. So there you go. I've given you a little bit more of an outburst than I normally do, but I wanted you to know why I've been on this path and why I've bided my time and secured myself and got myself, my position and my safety, put that first. I'm not going to London to the protests, but I'll be watching you and my thoughts will be with you. We knew about this for a long time. They came for the children first in this police state, and a lot of people didn't wake up immediately until about 5 or 6 years ago when Savill broke, and a lot of us came out and felt more confident with revealing what happened to us. But unfortunately, it's escalated since then, hasn't it? And it seems no coincidence that the rot has got that bad with a fish's head. A fish rots from its head. It doesn't seem a coincidence that it's beginning to take over normal life now, because when there's that much deviance within power and the moral principles are that perverse and the lack of justice is that severe, it's going to infect everything else eventually anyway, as it is doing. So I'm going to go now. I don't know if I've got 3 watches and a thumbs up. Yeah, thank you. So no, I don't feel sad about the past. I don't want people to feel too much sympathy, and I don't want to dwell on it that much. I might send out a few bits of info on my Facebook or Twitter pages, Sam Hill 1212 on Twitter. But you know, my cause is much bigger than that now, because I said that the injustice is generated to a much bigger thing. And if I was to spend my whole life navel gazing about myself, I'd go mad. I've spent enough tears and time and, you know, over the years, and I'm healed, if you like, spiritually. I sought help in the right places and it worked for me. I know I don't go to church. I'm not a real Bible basher, but I do understand the principles that are going on here, and I really, really hope some of you will look at the finer details and share some of it, because it will help. All right, and it will help you the way it did me, to realize that this persecution has a meaning and the times we're in have a meaning. One that they would like to take away, and that's the last thing that they could take away from me, because while I was in a position not unlike Julian Assange, my testimony of my Christian belief was put under trial, and I was told, you know, by Sri Lankan doctor Sebastian Pillai, given all these accolades, been a great doctor. No, he wasn't. He told me I hadn't been abused. He told me I couldn't go to the cathedral. He told me in no uncertain terms that if I didn't stop this belief system, that I wouldn't be considered well enough to leave, you know. And the medication they gave was over the top, crazily over the top. Put on 3 stone in less than 6 months. It was just, the whole system was really corrupt. The mental health system, the institutions, they're all working for the same thing, which is just a corrupt government which covers up abuse, which doesn't really care about its the citizens. We're seeing this more and more. The rot is really infecting a lot more. So no, don't feel sorry about me personally. I've moved on. I'm one of you. I'm with you guys now, and that's what's important, because we are a good team. The explosion around the event and the treatment I received in this awful hospital, that I hope, you know, we're not going to see a mass in vaccination process, because I understand how corrupt the medical profession has become, how money orientated it is. It was money paid for what they did to me. But that explosion created a buffer zone for me to recover, move on in life, regrow as a person, become almost a new person. So yeah, the trauma, I find it hard to go back there, but I've gone rerouted, if you like, from a different position, grew. My brain was still developing at 16. I wasn't really a fully formed adult. Moved on and restarted life, really, really, with a sense of purpose, but also spiritual guidance. So yeah, let's just hope this Mengele type of thing doesn't manifest. The police state, the corruption within power, the paedophilia that guides a lot of this, the satanic kind of leanings of a lot of these people. Let's hope it doesn't infect people by injecting them. Because, what am I going to say? I know the nature of this experimental kind of perversity. Dr. Lipkin, I don't even know if he's still alive. I remember him. He wore a white coat, short, not a tall man, middle-aged man. And I can see parallels with what is happening with Gates and Zuckerberg shutting down all the free speech. Not only do you get Mengeles like Gates, you get people shutting down free speech, allies of his, like Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg has meetings with people like Merkel, where she talks about how she wants free speech curtailed, and they make a little arrangement with one another. And even Epstein was a friend of, connected to Gates, and they were all into this super genetic kind of experimentation as well. And I've read an article which says Epstein wanted to populate the world, or populate, you know, with his genes or something. I can't remember what it was now. You can Google it. He wanted to seed the world or something. I can't remember what it was. There's an article I read, but it's very much connected to Gates. They were in the same sort of network. So what we are seeing is a super state that we've been denied any ability to criticize, condemn, explore, because they're so well fastened at the top. Use everything to deflect. It's all within their power. It's all smoke and mirrors. So I've experienced this kind of thing amongst my own family, and it was terrifying. And you know, the way that the authorities go step towards with abusers because they're higher status has shown me that they really are status mad, status driven hierarchy that we have now, which doesn't resemble anything culturally divine, which is why they don't particularly get up in arms with the statues and the desecration of people and their rights as well. You know, the things that we thought were statute amongst cultural normality and moral normality. So we are dealing with an upper tier that is very perverse. This is why I wrote my book Perversity Culture of the End Times, which you can find on Amazon. Check out some of my other videos. Follow me on Twitter, samhill1212. I may put some of my evidence out there, but you know, I'm not on trial here. As I said, I've had to move on and recreate my life. When this certain politician dies, I'm sure there'll be a few more people coming out and talking about it. I think I'm going to leave it there for now. Thanks for watching. Thanks. Bye.